laptop could go any minute. Probably not, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I want to back it up like tonight if I can. Well, yeah, I'll have to plug it into a monitor to see what I'm doing. But I'm going to back it up and then I guess I won't have a laptop for 2 days, which is fine.
It's not your only
Luckily,
source of computing.
Yeah, I've got my I've got my work computer at work. They gave me a desktop machine. This was handy because I used it for watching training videos or looking stuff up that I needed to know while I was working on my other computer. Not to mention watching, Netflix in bed or something.
Yeah. Did I mention that I figured out how to make it to where I still have to change the filter for our crop, but I don't have to resize our screen anymore, even between filters.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I figured out the quickest way, because you can unlock the aspect ratio, but the quickest way to do that is to just click resize to screen, which immediately unlocks the aspect ratio, and then I can just drag the boxes into the size that we just want it to permanently be. And even if I flip the filters, they just stay within that box that I dragged them to. So
cool. Mm-hmm. Very nice. Well, I can see that we're live.
Yeah. Welcome to Super Serial Showtime, everyone. I am your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Good. That's cool that when I move my hand behind the mic, it pops into existence, and then it pops out.
It's like a magic trick.
That's not a divot in my shoulder. It's actually the mic. I haven't played enough Stardew Valley.
I've played too much, actually. I haven't gotten as much done as I'm supposed to otherwise, and I had to actively not play last night to be able to catch up on some of the shows that I needed to catch up on. It's actually been a problem, concern that I'm trying to take care of. If I was playing by myself, it'd be no problem, but I had to be real with some of the other people we're playing with, and one of the other the person hosting the server was also like, "Hey, I've got plans tonight." I'm like, "Good, I need to do other things."
Yeah. How have you not watched enough anime? I mean, come on, man.
Well, so it's not about whether I've watched enough anime, right? It's that everything I watched before we started doing the show with shit I've already watched is all old, right? So I need to watch new anime so we could talk about it. And because I've been playing, I can't watch it and communicate with people while playing Stardew Valley at the same time. Like, there's one too many things going on where I just feel like if I'm watching a show while doing that, I'm just not giving them attention.
Yeah, I'll think I can do that briefly, and I'll have some show on, even a show that I've seen before or something, and I'm playing a game, and then I'm inevitably I have to reach over and pause the show because I'm I realize I've missed several scenes or whatever, and I'm not paying attention. So
yeah, I don't have that problem if I'm solo, right? Because I can juggle those things, especially if it's something I've already watched. But I know it's something about being in a group with people, and I don't want to divert my attention from the other people just to do something selfishly.
Yeah.
But I did. I caught up on at least one of the things that we were talking about. I watched Dungun Menshi, also known as Dungeon Meal, or the adaptation Delicious in Dungeon is the name.
Yeah, I feel like I also I think caught up. Let me see. What was the last?
There's
I think episodes. I might be midway through the very last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Because I know, let me see here. I guess we're still
episode.
We're still in the first season, right?
Yes. There's 12 episodes, and the last episode is kind of the actual finalization of their journey, but most of the episode is like an epilogue that's setting up for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, this is confusing. Why is... Oh, I see. I was looking at a list of the episodes, and they were like listing out the different meals. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, are these individual episodes? No, they're different recipes. Is there a name
Oh, hi, Fish Jozo.
for the episode?
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out which one I'm on. I know they just came up against the dragon. Not to spoil too much, but I don't think I've finished that episode yet.
I will spoil the whole show except for what you haven't seen.
Let me just make sure. Maybe I saw it. No, I don't, because they haven't. No, it hasn't been resolved yet. So,
Are you in the dragon
Uh-oh.
fight?
yeah.
Okay, then that would be episode 11 still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I am halfway through episode 11. Why did I stop? See, I'll stop
Yeah.
I'll realize I'm falling asleep or something, and so I'll turn it off, and then I'll completely forget that I was watching. Like I should have finished. I don't know why I didn't finish, but I probably just forgot. So
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
because of that.
it's a good story.
It is. Actually, I was enjoying
Yeah.
it. I wasn't really enjoying it as much at the beginning as later on. I think it was going a little too slow at the start for the setup. I feel like the first like 2 episodes with them really getting to know Senshi the dwarf and stuff probably could have been compressed into 1 episode, and then the later stuff could have been dragged out a little more. That's probably just an issue with adaptation. They could have not followed the pacing of the chapters as much, because you have to understand that a comic and a animated series are going to have different pacing than each other. But like aside from that, I thought it was good. I found it was weird that this is in the short list of manga adaptations by Studio Trigger, which usually does original works. They don't have that many adaptations. But that also explains why the animation looks so good, because Studio Trigger is one of the better animation studios.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, by the, I don't know when they brought it up again, 10th or 11th, when they were kind of planning for this dragon fight, I had completely forgotten why they were even on this quest. Because they really took it slowly. But then when they brought it back and started talking about it again, I was like, oh yeah, there is a story to all of this, and it's actually pretty good if they finally get it back to it. So.
Yeah. No, it was good. It does get resolved. Not to spoil how or anything, but it does, and I think it's a good motivation. I think any story needs a really strong motivator. I have not read the manga, but after watching it, I did go and check people talking about where it deviated during this time. So I don't know what happens next at all. I'm wondering if anything after this has as good of a motivation as trying to save somebody's sister who died. I was misled. I don't know if it was you or other people that misled me. Somebody said this felt like very video game like, and to some degree I can kind of feel it just because people get revived in it, but it's just like standard fair fantasy, because they have like a really good in-world explanation for why specifically in the dungeon people can be revived.
Yeah. Well, for a while it was more, I would have called it, I mean, maybe you're thinking of me, but I would have said it's more like tabletop role-playing like.
Yeah.
Because they do have people, so, okay, so I did see their explanation. So does that mean if they die outside the dungeon, they can't come back?
Yes.
I guess
so
I guess
if you don't remember specifically, the explanation is that the dungeon itself has a curse on it, so that your soul is basically chained to your corpse. And that's also why there's like ghosts in the dungeon, even though they can be ghosts other places, because eventually like the corpse will completely deteriorate and there's nothing for the soul to be chained to anymore. And they're still kind of just like unresolved, lingering there.
Yeah, until they got to that explanation, though, it seemed more like, oh, it's just like I don't know, a
Like
video
a
game or
game
role playing
in
game or
general,
something where,
yeah.
yeah, where you can die and then get revived, start over. So yeah, they didn't explain that until near the end. So it was, yeah. I think I mentioned something about that.
Yeah. I was really like, before making judgments on that while watching, waiting to
I don't have a
see
problem
if they
with
were
it.
going to explain. Well, I don't have a problem with that either, though I do prefer my fantasy to at least be concise to itself, I guess, you know, very consistent to itself.
Or at least, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it would, if you could just die and revive them, there wouldn't be much in terms of stakes.
Yeah.
But it was confusing to me why the person they're sort of trying to rescue or whatever, how they died. Like, I was like, okay, wait, can they die or can they not die? It was
Well, they even brought that up at the very beginning. It's like, have they ever revived somebody from being pooped out? And like, well, it's not completely unprecedented, but
I forgot about that because she got eaten by the dragon, right?
And that's why the teleport spell didn't work on her, because like dragons are resistant to magic and she's inside the dragon's stomach, so it got everybody else out except for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, I would say at least this one I started enjoying a little bit earlier than Spy Family, because I think Spy Family, I said it took me about episode 5 before I was like really enjoying it, and it's because of that one. Episode 5 is like when all the main things in plot, setting, characters, and everything are established, and you're starting to see the dynamics between the people. So it's a little more than just a establishment. So that's like when the show's in full swing. This one, it felt closer to like episode 3 when everything was in full swing, and I was enjoying it a lot more.
see, the other thing is I watched Spy Family at least through the cruise.
Yeah.
And the episode after that. I tell you, man, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I probably just from having a family, that show really chokes me up. When yours starts to think about like, what am I doing here? What is this? What do I want to do?
But like I said before, yours is my favorite character.
I was like,
for those reasons too, because like she, despite being a killer, feels like really, really innocent about this entire situation.
Yeah, and then they went on their little vacation, and she's in the cave, and the spider comes down, and she's like scared of spiders.
Well, also similarly, I think my favorite character in Dungeon Meshi is probably Marcel. Because she also feels like she doesn't want to hold people back. She has like that type of like determined but womanly innocence to her that makes things exciting, especially during the Undine fight, right? Because she's like dying. She's also like out of mana, but she doesn't want to sit back. She wants to be used to not just her friends, but she wants to help save her long-term friend from when they were in magic school. And there's like there's something very compelling about that character's determination that I think like anybody has been in a situation like that in their life, even not as grave as she's in, but like everybody knows that feeling, so it's really strong to have that behind a character.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where else recently I'd heard the term Undine, because it's so weird. I knew what the character was or what it was because I just looked it up like a week before, because it had popped up in something else very recently, and I was like, that is so strange, but I can't remember
think where it would have popped up that was recent.
Yeah, I know there's like a movie from 2020, but it was
it's a common monster in D&D.
I know why.
Were you playing
apparently
Dragon Quest? I don't know if there's Undine in there, but
no.
Okay.
Species 8472 in Star Trek Voyager calls themselves the Undine.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was, because I guess they kind of resemble like water spirits or they're kind of weird live creatures with no mouth. to communicate telepathically. I don't know why they call themselves Undine, but very strange.
Darn
Very weird
telepaths.
coincidence.
They can have no mouth and still scream.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably because they live in fluidic space, so they're kind of like their native universe is water, essentially. Water,
Okay.
Fluid.
That kind of somewhat makes sense. I don't know. Voyager was weird.
Yeah. Very strange.
And also not as good as Deep Space Nine.
Some parts were better, I thought.
Well, it
I
was very
like some of the
interesting
characters.
when they did Endgame, like decades before Avengers did. Like same plot line basically, and it was literally called Endgame.
Adventures?
Avengers, like Marvel. MCU.
Oh, Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Like it's functionally the same type of time travel plot line that happened in Endgame in Voyager, and the episode was literally called Endgame.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if they got that from the comic. I wonder if the writers had that in mind. Or no, that didn't happen in the comics. That was only in the movies, wasn't it?
Viz, I'm not going to let you jump on just to talk about one anime if you're not even going to tell me what the anime is, like, beforehand. Like, what anime is it? We were in the middle of talking about an anime, which I enjoyed Dungeon Meshi quite a bit.
Yeah, man, I gotta finish it. I've only got an episode and a half left. I'm so bad at finishing these things. I'm on the. I think I've watched all but the last season of Attack on Titan, and I can't bring myself because I got so bored with it. Talk about a show that goes slowly. Like, get on with it.
I dropped Attack on Titan like very early on. My brother's been watching it, and he's been enjoying it at least like up to a certain point. But then at a certain point, it almost becomes like a different series, right? Like the whole survival horror aspect gets replaced by the whole like action, effectively a mech show, but with Titans instead of mechs. But I felt that part from the very beginning, because at the very beginning, the politics was like the forefront of Attack on Titan. And like this it has all the pacing of a mech show, but I'd rather be watching a mech show.
Yeah, but I think I got bored with it when it got really into the politics and shit. And it's like, and I don't even know what, like I got to the reveal of where the Titans came from, and it's like, okay, I don't really care what happens in the story. I just wanted to know where they came from. That's all I care about. Is there more to it? I mean, I think it's just more political intrigue and what happens next, but it's like, yeah.
Dude, I also hate
I've got
the English name of that show, like the localized name, because if you were to translate it, it should be like Attack of the Titans, or like Titan Assault is a more accurate name, which is more badass sounding. Like I would still drop it because of what's going on in there, but I would have been more inclined to try to start it earlier if it was called Titan Assault. Like that's a selling name.
It's just like Delicious in Dungeon. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Attack on Titan? So is it about the people who are attacking the Titans? Is Titan a place? It's so confusing.
The proper translation, Delicious in Dungeon, I don't know why they chose to localize it that way. The actual translation of the name is Dungeon Meal. Like, which also kind of makes slightly more sense. I mean, it's still ambiguous, like, Dungeon Meal, what is this? But at least it's a proper translation of what the title of it was, Dungan Menshi.
Or Meshi, Dungeon Cooking, or
something like that.
Yeah. Like Dungeon Meals.
Dungeon Meals.
There you go. That makes sense.
The word is not inherently singular plural, but meals actually probably would still be a better contextual translation,
Yeah. Call it what do they call is it Dark Iron Dwarves or something like that? Maybe that's only in World of Warcraft. I was gonna say like Dark Iron Chef or something. Unless I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah.
Because the dwarf ends up being the chef most of the time.
Yeah. I liked him. Essentially, he was a cool character. I think their whole little cast is kind of cool. I'm trying to remember the Half-Foot's name. That's like the one I'm spacing out on. But even he, with his whole little mimic episode, like they get a good time of like, developing each character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess he's kind of. Yeah, I feel like he was one. Didn't like they were talking about the fact of not really caring about the other people in the group.
Yeah, like they were here for a job, and he got paid up front, which is why he's still here.
Yeah. He was the only one who was just like, no, I'm here because I got paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also what was the other dwarf's name? Namari, I think, was her name. Didn't help the group because she went off and got a different job. Though she did, when they ran into each other, like she did something pretty selflessly because her friend was in trouble.
Yeah. They were fighting those tentacles, right? Something like that.
Well, they did, but that wasn't the part. It was when they were trying to capture the Undine, and she was like, there's no way Laios is going to be able to hold it in there. Like, the other dwarf will be fine, but... Right.
Yeah.
And then she and Senshi end up, like, pulling the Undine to the fire and almost burning their hands because, well, as heat-resistant dwarves are, like, they had to push themselves on the pot that evenly distributes heat the entire time it's cooking.
Yeah. Man, they cooked that thing alive. It's rough.
If you could call it alive.
I mean, like
it's
trying
actually
to kill them.
Made up of a bunch of tiny spirits, so... They cook that thing undead?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was reading the comment.
Fizz Chozo says, I generally hate fantasy anime. They don't even try to tell stories with their generic settings. I mean, this story was told almost entirely through the setting. Like, the setting was a major part of the story. And it wasn't even that generic. Like, it was kind of a twist on the idea of a dungeon to some degree. So, like,
I love Fizz Chozo's takes.
I know. they're always off the wall.
Don't ever change, man.
Yeah. It did remind me of, actually, one of my favorite anime, though. Right? And that, I think for the first 3-ish episodes until, like, I think maybe it was halfway through episode 3 where it, like, kicked in for me. That, like, I'm enjoying this. I'm not having to, like, compare it to something else. But for the first 2, it was like, I'd rather be watching this other one. I'd rather be watching this other one. And I think it's just because of how quickly episode 1 I got invested into it. And it was the video game series animation adaptation of Tower of Druaga, which it's only 2 seasons, but it's one of my favorite anime I've ever seen. It's like up there on the list, top 5. And you have a character named Jill who lives in the era after Gil had, finished the tower, getting the blue crystal rod at the top and everything, and killing Druaga. And everybody's becoming climbers. They're trying to climb this new, bigger tower that grew in its place, while Gil, who is Gilgamesh, became the king of Uruk. And there's like this huge plot and stuff. It's fun. I mean, the whole thing is just is the setting, right? Like, everything is dependent on being inside the Tower of Druaga. Really, really fun. And I was getting even more comparisons with it the further I got in, but it wasn't detracting from the series when it came to Dungeon Meals. It was actually just, I guess, reinforcing what I was liking about it. It's like, yes, you're using the setting to its advantage. It does, instead of like a climb, it's a descent, but it kind of has a lot of that same feeling of working through tougher and tougher levels and having like different types of encounters as you get down. So yeah, I give it At least a B plus. I'm possibly an A. I'm not sure what I'm gonna have to see what happens after this, but at least a B plus right now for Dungeon Meal.
Okay. Fair enough.
But also, if you haven't seen Tower of Druaga, anyone in the audience, you should go watch Tower of Druaga.
Yeah, I just looked that up. I had no idea they turned that into an anime. Actually.
Oh yeah.
I knew the video game, but
it's one of my. I wouldn't even necessarily call it an adaptation because it's not, right? In it. You do see them flash back sometimes and talk about what happened in the original tower, what happened with Gil, but it's more of just, it's a sequel. It was kind of made, I think, for an anniversary. I think it was commissioned by the company, obviously, who owns the rights now. I don't know who owns the rights now, but somebody has to. I remember it was published in partnership with
Namco?
Midway, but Midway doesn't exist anymore. Can you talk about Babylon? Honestly, I don't know shit about Babylon, and I'm not even sure I want to talk about it. Like, I've never even heard of Babylon. Every time I hear the word Babylon, I'm thinking of that shitty sci-fi show Babylon 5.
Yeah. I was trying to think. I think there was an anime based on Ultima 3 Exodus, I believe, that only released in Japan. Let me see. According to the official book of Ultima, Japanese distributors launched an all-out media blitz to promote the Nintendo version of Ultima 3, and animated cartoons soon brought the Ultima story to television audiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was only recently, like in the last, I don't know, only in recent years was it confirmed that it even existed.
Also, Fizchoso had a challenge, and I've got one right here, too. He says, name a single good villain from an isekai anime. Now, here's the thing. Not all fantasy anime are isekai. In fact, both of the ones that I was just talking about are not isekai. So, whatever. But, two, I've got... Inuyasha is, by definition, an isekai, and Naraku is a good villain. So, there you go.
Okay, so apparently this anime was maybe never released anywhere. It was made and never released.
That's funny.
Because in 2020, he confirmed that it existed, but he doesn't know, but it may or may not have been accidentally broadcast at some point. But it was never. That is so weird. You know.
I watched actually. Let me get my list. I watched a few video game related anime while I was gone. I have it all on this this ticket stub, which I have been adding to recently. I've got Yashahime, Spy Family, and Dungeon Meshi in there too on the list. I've passed 1600 as I posted this morning. It's still going. I have no idea how many unique episodes I'm going to watch this year, especially given the fact that I started rewatching Inuyasha with some friends. I think we're on episode 11 will be the next one, so I've already watched 10. It's probably going to be a very jam-packed year for watching anime. But if I go through my list, I watched... wait until I see Tower of Druaga is there. Valkyrie Chronicles is also there, which was like a PS1 game. Dot Hack Sign, which is kind of like a companion anime side plot Gaiden of the original Dot Hack game. Waiting for the next. I have like all these as acronyms, so I actually have to end up remembering, or not abbreviations, what these abbreviations even mean. Persona 4, the animation, which is just an animated version of the story of Persona 4, which is pretty good. Tales of Eternia had like an anime that adapts like just a small part in between when they're going from the bottom world to the other world that like is mirrored up in the sky, like where they're going to Celestia, which is pretty cool. It's like a 12 episode thing.
Apparently, there's a Pikmin anime. That's weird.
I have never seen that. Figure out which other ones I've done.
Tales of what was it? Tales
Eternia.
of Eternia. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm looking at a list of
There's a lot.
anime that are based on video games.
There's the movie for Animal Crossing, which we watched in the server last year.
Oh, I missed that.
There's also Halo Legends, which is a collection of OVA movies that are obviously Halo. Covers some of the stories from the games, and I think Reach might be in there. There's so many that I've seen. I have to think about all of them.
Did I miss? I wonder if Animal Crossing is in this list. I don't see it.
If it should be, because people should translate it, but look for Debutsu no Mori.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Okay. There it is. Yeah. It is under Gekijoban.
Yeah.
Gekijoban?
Basically just
Debutsu
means
no
the
Mori.
movie. Yeah. It's like Animal Crossing, the official movie, or something like that. I've looked up what the name meant before, but I can't remember precisely off the top of my head.
Yeah. What is this? Final Fantasy Unlimited?
Final Fantasy Unlimited
Is
is
that
not a video game adaptation. It is a completely original story in a setting that is like Final Fantasy. It's got a lot of Final Fantasy aspects in it, like chocobos and summons and stuff like that, but it has absolutely nothing to do with any Final Fantasy story. It's good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It says it's based on the series.
Yeah. There's a Phantom Train that they used to get around. Actually, Final Fantasy Unlimited is a fairly big influence on a series that I'm going to be working on with an artist soon. So that'll be fun.
That's cool.
Some other adaptations that I've seen, because the problem is I've seen so many, it's trying to remember all of them. There's a Devil May Cry anime, which is not really an adaptation per se. It's kind of like the same as Dot Hack in a way. It takes place in between the stories of DMC 2 and 4, which probably sounds weird to people who haven't played DMC, but that's because 3 is a prequel. So 4 is the next one that chronologically happens after 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And that's because Japan takes their video games a little more seriously. Like, we laugh at video games here. It's only recently that people even decided to start adapting things. And then they go and adapt stuff like, what's it called? The Last of Us. Or we would have random adaptations, but all of them would be laughed off except for Resident Evil. That's like the only one that anybody took seriously for the longest time.
What is the point of adapting The Last of Us when The Last of Us, the video game, is
It's
pretty much
basically
just a
TV
slightly
series.
it's like an interactive movie or TV series already. Just
The
take out the
Mortal Kombat
interactivity part.
movie was really good. The original.
Oh, the original, yeah.
The original. Yeah. I think that still holds up. Like,
I was
there's
like,
some
which
wonky
one?
moments, but I think the original still holds up for the most part.
Yeah.
Except for like maybe Goro's arms, but there's something charming about like the mix between using an actual like puppetry person and claymation together, like in different shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald mentioned Frieren. That's one I have not seen any of. I need to. Is it any good so far?
I was enjoying it. Yes. So after I finished Dungeon Meal, I basically started and I watched the first 6 episodes of Frieren, and yeah, it was pretty good. The whole concept is called Beyond Journey's End. Is the like additional the subtitle to whatever. And the point is that they had already gone on an adventure, right? Before the show started, they had gone through the whole traditional, typical Dungeons and Dragons style adventure of there's a party of 4 people. We had to travel across the world and kill the Demon King, right? And the show basically starts with them returning from that adventure, and you find out that you're going to be following this elf in their crew, their mage. And she disappears, and she comes back like 50 years later because she promised them that they were going to see this meteor shower that happens every 50 years, and she was going to take them to a better place to see it than the Capitol, where the lights kind of don't make it look as good, right?
Yeah.
But all of her friends are old now. Like, even the young hero who she looked up to, who was handsome and kind of full of himself a little bit, but he was the type of guy who would go out of his way to help anyone, is now like this shortened, bald old man who is on his deathbed, right?
Yeah.
But being an elf, like, she just doesn't perceive time the same way that her friends do.
Yeah.
And
it's
yeah,
about how she deals with her friends kind of
aging
getting old
and dying, and yeah. So
I mean,
the main plot is not that, technically. It stems from that. That's like the setup for the plot. The main plot is that her friend dies, and then she didn't know it was going to hit her that hard. She like breaks down at his funeral when they're finally burying him, and she was like, the time was too short. It was my fault. I never got to know you guys better. So then she's like basically taken upon herself to get to know humans, but specifically her friends better. And she goes on to this really, really long journey where she ends up meeting one of her other friends, picks up the girl he adopted as her disciple, ends up picking up the disciple of one of her other friends. The only one who will live even remotely as long as her, the dwarf, who's like really aged still, because dwarves don't live forever, but they still live long. She ends up like picking up his disciple too, and they're going on a journey basically back to the Demon King's castle in the far north, because past that is apparently the land of the souls, like where people go to rest, right? That's where heaven is. Similar to like the Norse, like Asgard and Valhalla is so far north that you just can't get there, right? That's where they thought it was.
Yeah.
So they're going there so she can actually talk to the spirit of her fallen friend, and they're basically reliving their 10-year journey in a way. So it's a pretty interesting plot, and it's very serious. I mean, there's like comedic moments here and there, but it takes itself seriously. The tone is not a comedy, right? And so when there is comedy, it's comedic relief.
Yeah, it's not. It's kind of a. It's probably not great for people who are looking for a, like a hack and slash kind of sword and sorcery kind of plot.
There's some really intense. Right? I wouldn't say there has been that intense fights yet, but there are battles, right? The first few ones haven't been too intense just because they're mages and they're solving things mage-wise. So a lot of it is like, I just blew it up and it's dead. But once Starks, the dwarves' apprentice, gets brought in, he actually has like a pretty actiony fight against a dragon that he kills without even noticing that he killed it.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like more of a dramatic show that's kind of.
It's a very character-driven show. Like it's not necessarily the story arc. It is the character's emotional development in a way is kind of like the driving point of the show.
Yeah. That's a little bit different from most anime of that sort of genre.
Yep. But I was enjoying it. I will definitely finish it. At least.
I don't know. Like, Fitzgerald kind of brought up an interesting, well, I can make it interesting, question or comment about, is that show mainstream? Are any anime mainstream? I guess, I don't know. I think of it as niche, and I don't, it's just sort of a whole niche thing.
The thing is,
I hadn't heard of it until very recently.
Because Japanese animation has kind of just completely replaced the American animation scene at this point. right? If there's
Yeah, I
anything
guess.
that is animation, anime is mainstream. That's just it's just how it is.
Yeah, and he says it's super popular. I I'd not heard of it, but I don't, I don't pay that close attention, but like I hadn't heard of it until
It's
I
definitely
saw.
popular on social media.
Okay. I mean, I see it more now, but like I hadn't even heard of it until I randomly came across a video that was comparing her to the Rings of Power show, or comparing that show to the Rings of Power.
No, like even when I was offline, just like it's popular enough that I would go to check Twitter and it would be in my Twitter feed for like the 5 minutes that I actually managed to be online because I was at Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I guess I'm not. Yeah, I'm not dialed in to that.
But I still wouldn't call it. I mean,
community.
it's as mainstream as a fantasy type show like that gets. Because even like most isekai, which Chozo complains about, aren't really mainstream as far as anime go. Like they're like right on the border as a genre, and most of them aren't even close, right? Like the most popular ones are.
Yeah.
Like I think the only one I would consider mainstream in the modern day is probably Konosuba. And that's probably it. It's no, if I and even that one's kind of old. If I turn back, what was that one video game one that I hated? Sword Art.
Konosuba.
Sword Art was mainstream. That one was actually mainstream. That's probably
I've heard of
one the
that.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't understand why people like that one. I'm like, I'd rather just watch Dot Hack Sai. This is not that good. But Sword Art, that's one of the few in the list that I can say was actually mainstream. Fantasy doesn't often get mainstream, like Inuyasha was at the time, like these type of high fantasy, which that one is also still an isekai technically, but back when they were good and different, they weren't about Truck Kun running you over and now you're suddenly in a different world. They were closer to Alice and Wonderland style Portal stories. Yeah. ReZero I actually wouldn't even consider mainstream. Like it's popular enough that people talk about it, but if you brought that up, no average person like in Walmart would know about it. That when I say mainstream, I mean somebody who doesn't even watch shit would know about it. Like the most mainstream anime there is, like you could bring up Dragon Ball and a random person who's never even watched a single episode knows at least what Dragon Ball is,
Yeah.
If you have to explain something to a rando, it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's why
I
like,
know all the
battle shonen tend to be mainstream because like randos, like My Hero Academia, there's merch for that in Walmart. That's mainstream.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're not going to
I
find
hadn't even
free
heard of the
rent
one that
merch
you just mentioned.
at Walmart. Which one? ReZero? Yeah, most people haven't.
No, you mentioned one that sounded like it had a Japanese name that was, I think you said it was
Konosuba?
an isekai. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, that's why I said that's because that one's a little newer than Sword Art, but I mean at this point, that Konosuba's already old. It's been done, but that one, you've seen Aqua, the useless goddess, probably show up places, or any of the characters. You've probably seen the explosion memes.
But they're so generic. Okay, I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, generic anime girls.
Yeah.
One of them's wearing like a pointy witch hat.
The reason Konosuba's popular is because it's actually a parody of the genre that it is. Like it's making fun of those type of things, and it's more popular than most of the things it's making fun of.
Konosuba explosion scene.
Yeah, it's a meme. Explosion. It's because the mage in the group is a megalomaniacal maniac that could nuke entire towns.
Oh my god.
And has a hard time resisting blowing things up. because it's an easy solution to things. Like, why wouldn't I just blow it up?
Yeah. No, I've never seen this. I'm so out of it. I'm looking at it, like I see the meme, but I'm like,
Is Dragon made mainstream? That
I've heard of.
That one's probably on that border, right? Where enough random people might know it. Like, maybe on the lower end. There was enough, like, just talk about it in general during the time that it was, like, super new. So that I would probably put that one on the border of, like, with Konosuba.
Yeah. I think probably just because it's controversial.
Yeah, I think that was the main one part, was the controversies around it.
Is that the one with the girl with the bamboo in her mouth?
I'm trying to remember if she had bamboo in her mouth. It's the one with the...
That's someone else. The horny dragon anime. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I've heard of that one. I've seen lots of memes of that one. Oh boy. Yeah. Anime girl with...
I mean, I guess it could count. Basically, also, at least here in the West, right? Because mainstream will vary depending whether we're talking about is it popular in Japan or is it popular here, right? Oh yeah,
I was thinking of Demon Slayer, Nezuko.
Oh, so when you said bamboo, I thought you were talking about like how like a farmer has hay, because a lot of people have like the actual stalks that come off the bamboo in their mouth. You're talking about the actual like full on, yeah. No, Demon Slayer.
Anything about that either, but I've
that's 100%. Demon Slayer, what was the metric? It outsold like the entirety of the American comic book industry the year that it was like 2018 or something like that, or was it 2020?
Yeah,
it was like 1 year it had sold more volumes of Demon Slayer than the American comic book industry. At least the main two had sold comics.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. So that's actually a muzzle with a strap around her head so that she won't eat humans or something. So she won't eat people.
Yeah, but like if something's on Toonami in the West, you could probably consider it mainstream. Though sometimes people don't end up knowing all the shows; they just the highlight. Like, and that's why Battle Shonen tend to be mainstream. You've got Naruto. Everybody's heard of Naruto, right? Bleach. Everybody at least knows of Bleach. Things like that. Just because they're around One Piece, everybody knows of One Piece. In Japan, it's a completely different story as to what is and isn't mainstream. But also, it doesn't matter as much in Japan because it's a lot easier to thrive being niche in Japan when it comes to like their comics and animation.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Very healthy industry. Not how they work people. Like being into industry isn't healthy, but monetarily it's a very healthy industry.
Yeah.
But Free Run's good. I'm going to continue. I can't grade it or anything, what's actually out, because I haven't gotten further than 6 episodes, but I have been enjoying the 6 episodes that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to finish the 2 shows I've been watching. When is are they going to do any more seasons of One Punch Man? I love that show.
Yeah, so that show is in a very weird limbo state. And part of that, obviously, some things are still recovering from the pandemic this 4 years later. Yeah. And in the animation industry, it's not just budget, but it's also scheduling. Because if you want a certain studio, they can only work on so many things at a time and so on and so forth. The first one was done by Studio Madhouse. Mm-hmm. Which, actually, Madhouse did Free Run. Which... one of the reasons it looks so good. Madhouse is another one of my favorites. Actually, probably my favorite studio when it comes to animation. Everything always looks gorgeous when they make it. But Madhouse did the first one. Then they went to a different studio for season 2 because they didn't want to pay Madhouse's budget or something like that. And then they said, because of the complaints, they were going to go back to Madhouse for season 3, and that it was supposed to come out, but it still hasn't yet. So who knows? Who knows when One Punch Man is going to continue? Read the manga. The manga's been continuing for a long time now, or the webcomic, which is even further than the manga, but the art is questionable for some people. I find it charming. One's crappy doodles. But a lot of it also gets expanded further in the manga, so you actually get more in it. So the manga's actually probably the best experience for One Punch Man.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of talk about the new X-Men show.
Oh yeah.
Although
I've been seeing mixed opinions on it. I'm not really interested in watching it like at all. Not even.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could find it elsewhere, but there's no way in hell I'm gonna.
Oh, fuck Disney Plus.
Pay for Disney Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the thing that got me to not want to watch it isn't even that it came back and that I don't trust like people to work on it now. It was honestly the last season and a half of the original show, like halfway through season 4, and I thought that I was the only one who felt this way. But then I was talking to on Mike Walters' show about this, and apparently that's actually a common opinion that plenty of people didn't like it at about that same point, and there was like budget drops at that time, which would even explain like why some of the writing feels phoned in. And it's like, do I really want to go back to watching a show that I didn't even enjoy the end of in the first place, only for them to possibly make even worse? No, thank you. I'm good.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, hey, it's good. It's actually good. Ignore the other people. Like, people who would normally be shitting on that stuff. I'm like, okay, good for you. Have fun. I'm still not watching it. I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah.
It's, like, stylistically, I actually don't find that much of a difference between how they're drawing the characters and the original show. It's too crisp. And it's a problem I have with a lot of animation. It almost looks like a more fluid version of Archer when I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too, it's like, I just don't like the way it looks. Could you like put some
Yeah,
filter on it? Can you make it look old somehow, please?
Well, you know, and the old ones are all 480p that watched on a CRT.
Exactly.
And
you gotta have that experience, right? And everything was
good.
drawn on cells.
Yeah. Now it's all digital, I guess. I didn't quite understand. Like, I guess people have been saying something about like they do or don't like the animation style, and I don't quite get it. Just I don't know. I guess if you watch the trailer,
yeah, I watched some clips
in there
because they've been on Twitter. People have been putting clips up, and everybody's complaining about the stuff people are saying in the clips, and I'm like, I don't even give a shit about like so far nothing that you've shown me has actually been a bother for me, writing wise. But I just don't like the way it's animated. It's too crisp for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather go back and rewatch X-Men Evolution, which I always thought was a better show anyway.
Yeah, they need to what do you call it? Down sample it to 480p and put the bars on the sides.
Put some bars. Put like a little like a noise filter to get just a little bit of color jitter, like it was scanned in or taken a photograph of or something like that. Or...
Yeah.
I could fix this. Let me reinstall Vegas Pro. I can fix this.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. I need to. I'm watching this person who's about to deliver something to me. Get closer. So.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off my camera for just 1 second, but I can still hear you.
The last Marvel thing that I watched was Hit Monkey cartoon. I have no idea what Hit Monkey is. I've never seen it, so I'll take your word on it that it was good.
Is that like girl from Kick-Ass?
I don't know. I'm assuming there's probably a comic too, but I've never even read a Hit Monkey comic.
Well, there's
basically John Wick as a monkey. I mean, that sounds good.
I may or may not have been wearing pants up until this point. So just
Oh,
say that.
okay.
But I am wearing them now.
Like a news anchor.
Yeah, exactly.
All that matters is what you can see on camera.
Yeah, I don't know if this person's going to knock at my door or need me to sign for it or what. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just anything Disney's making right now just really doesn't have that much of an interest for me. Right? Like, I'm trying to think. I really am. I guess, is this technically Disney? Was it done with Touchstone? I don't remember. Trailer for Beetlejuice dropped. Right? Did you watch it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have no faith in Hollywood, but the trailer looked good.
Yeah, I had mixed opinions.
I thought teaser.
There was a full trailer that dropped on the Warner Brothers YouTube. Like, there was a teaser like a couple days before that, and they dropped the full trailer. It was like a minute long.
Okay.
I liked what I saw in the trailer. I didn't like the trailer itself, which I've had a big antagonistic relationship with marketing departments and how they decide to do trailers for a long time, because usually if a trailer's bad, it means I'm going to end up liking the movie. If the trailer's good, I'm not going to, because they do a lot of bait and switch with putting all the best parts in the trailer. And it looked good. It actually looked like the same type of set pieces that you expect like a Tim Burton-esque film to have. Ryder looked almost exactly the same, except you can see some of the age, but like she believably looked like Lydia. I think, who's that girl from Wednesday, Alex something, is playing Lydia's daughter, and she like looks like, obviously you picked the person who played Wednesday. She looks like she could be Lydia's daughter.
Jenny Ortega, wasn't it?
Jenny Ortega, that's her name. Jenny Ortega.
Yeah.
I think maybe the character's name is Alex. I don't remember. But Jenny Ortega is playing Lydia's daughter. Looks the part. But the trailer is like voiceover and everything is like it's a serious movie. Almost. Except for when you hear Michael Keaton's voice. Like hearing actual Beetlejuice talk gives you the vibes, right? But like everything else about the trailer just feels more serious than you expect from Beetlejuice. Kind of like watching a trailer for the Ghostbusters movie, right? The one with the kids. What was the first one when it came back before for the one that's coming now? Afterlife, I think was the name of it.
Yeah, that's out. It's out already.
Yeah. So Afterlife.
Oh, yeah.
I thought was going to take itself way too seriously because of the trailer. And then I watched it, and I'm like, well, I mean, it can't if Paul Rudd's in it. There's no way it could take itself way too seriously. But I watched it, and it didn't. Like, it did kind of feel comedically in line with the older Ghostbusters movies, but the trailer made it seem like this is going to be the most serious thing you've ever watched in your life. And it's almost the same way with the whole Frozen Empire one that's coming out, but at least they cropped in a couple of the comedic scenes into that one. And I was like, why are you taking these movies that are supposed to be funny and giving them a Schindler's List style trailer? I don't get it.
I don't know.
But I'll probably watch it. In fact, knowing my family, my dad will probably insist that he's going to take everyone to the theater to watch it. He's been waiting for this movie since the 90s when they originally said that they were going to make a sequel to Beetlejuice.
When it was going to be like
a tropical
Beetlejuice
vacation.
in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, and interestingly, like the older Michael Keaton works as a decrepit ghost.
Barely
right?
have to put any corpse paint on him.
Exactly.
I thought the voice sounded good. Like, it's not quite the voice he was doing as Beetlejuice. It's a little bit off, which happens with age. But actually, because he's having to force it, he sounds younger than the original voice that he did for Beetlejuice. And, like, it's probably because he's overcorrecting to try to hit the voice in the first place. But it still sounds fine, you know? Yeah, marketing department being awful is why Hollywood has to remake everything, Fizchozo says. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw the Critical Drinker review, a remake of Roadhouse.
Why would you remake Roadhouse?
Did they even... That's so stupid. Yeah, apparently it was just awful, as you would expect.
Yeah. I didn't even know they did that. I mean, I'm never going to watch it.
I didn't either.
I'll just go back and watch Roadhouse.
Exactly, yeah.
Swayze Elliott, I mean, where can you go wrong?
I wonder if someone just came up with an original script.
And like,
they're like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Roadhouse. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Roadhouse. Change a few names.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's a remake, whatever.
And like, I get that mentality, because I was saying before, if something is too similar to something else, it would make me rather go watch that something else. So they're probably thinking like, this is too similar to Roadhouse, or insert anything. We should just make it Roadhouse because people would watch this and they would rather watch Roadhouse. But that also ignores that there are new audiences that have never seen the other thing. And also you could, if something's too similar, like maybe make some suggestions instead that say, this is how we could tweak it to make it less similar and more of its own thing.
But like, from the sound of it, it was such an uninteresting and nonsensical story that like it would have just been, I mean, I'm sure it's a flop anyway, but I guess they tried to, maybe they tried to bring people in with a name.
Instead of watching Invincible, I would rather watch Dragon Ball, as Joseph says. I don't think those are even remotely too similar, though. I will say that the Viltrumites are definitely closer to the Saiyans than they are to the Kryptonians. The stories aren't relatively similar at all. But I still agree I would rather watch Dragon Ball than Invincible. It's just a better series.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I'll watch Beetlejuice. I like that the name is literally, instead of calling it Beetlejuice 2, it's Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Which implies that there should be a third one that should also never be made, because if you make the title of that movie, you accidentally summon Beetlejuice.
Right.
Or I guess it could be like the trilogy, because you say his name 3 times and it gets rid of him. This could be putting him down once and for all.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was, probably like teasing a third one while simultaneously saying there will be a third one, maybe.
Yeah, because you can't say his name 3 times.
Right.
It's still one of my favorite jokes from Ted 2, right? Where they're in the courtroom and he's like, oh, man, I don't feel good about this. I'm going to have to pull in the drastic measures or whatever. And he's like, he starts saying Beetlejuice. And then I can't remember Wahlberg's character's name, but he's like, whoa. You don't want to bring that kind of terror in here. You don't want to unleash that on these people.
Yeah. The original didn't make a whole lot of sense, though, because like when Lydia starts to say it, she says it twice, but like with words in between. She's like having a whole conversation. Like, so then could she just wait forever and then eventually say it the third time?
Yeah, I don't. Is there like a cooldown, like a time limit for this incantation?
Thought it had to be all at the same time, one after the other.
Yeah, well, there definitely can be a gap in it, because at the end, when they're trying to get rid of him, he keeps stopping them, but then like seconds later they're saying his name again and he's freaking out, and it's like, well, apparently that counted as the second time that the name was said, even though there's a gap in between them, but they didn't say anything else in between, so it's like it's still kind of weird.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah
So like you can say other things in between.
You can groan in between, at least.
Apparently.
You know. Still haven't watched the Ted TV series. I haven't watched it either. I have not.
There's a TED TV series?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Oh, look at that. Television miniseries. Huh. It doesn't have the Wahlberg guy.
I think it's supposed to be like a prequel when he was a kid.
Oh, it's just this year. Wow. Is
Or at
it
least that's
free
what I
on
heard
Peacock?
is what it was supposed to be. Was that it was supposed to be when he was a kid.
That sounds really dumb.
I mean, yeah, but Ted is really dumb, so.
Indeed.
I like the movie. Don't get me wrong. My dad likes that movie way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically 2. He likes 2 better than the first one. But he's watched Ted 2, I want to say 50 times in the last year. Across the course of the year. And I'm just like, you want to watch something new for a change? He also watched, like, Seinfeld all the way through 10 times.
Okay.
I was just like, I don't know. I like rewatching things, but like even this list of stuff that I rewatched, right? The last time I watched most of this stuff was like a decade ago. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got nothing else to do. I'm offline. I need to entertain myself while I'm working on stuff. I'll go rewatch some stuff I haven't seen in a decade.
Mm-hmm. Oh, apparently the first episode is free on Peacock, but then you have to.
Though I'm probably about to rewatch something I just rewatched, but that's to show other people. Apparently, I know some people who have never seen Ranma One Half. So for movie night, we're not watching movies for like the next however long it takes. We're watching 12 episodes at a time of Ranma One Half. Just so you guys know, I will list the episodes you can come in at. It's very sitcom-y. Like there are episodic arcs, but you can watch random episodes and not have to have seen the stuff that happened before it to enjoy it. So you just come in and out as you please. Ranma One Half is my absolute favorite series of all time. If you want to talk about somebody who likes something a little too much, I probably like Ranma One Half a little too much. And it is by Rumiko Takahashi, same person who made Inuyasha, Urusei Yatsura, the one with Invader Lum, and a whole bunch of other stuff. She's the richest woman in Japan and one of the most prolific manga creators of all time. And Ranma One Half is the story of a boy named Ranma Saotome and a girl named Akane Tendo. And Akane is going to inherit her father's dojo, his training hall, but only if she gets married. And Ranma was her father's best friend's son, who is promised to one of Tendo's 3 daughters, who's going to be Akane. The catch is Ranma, while training in China, fell into this cursed pond in the training area of Jisenkyo, where every time he's splashed with cold water, he becomes a she. And he has to use warm water to turn back again. So that's like the whole thing. It's like this whole shenanigans of this boy magically becoming a girl because he got splashed with water and random. It feels like a Hong Kong action comedy, like that type of writing style. And you could tell there's a lot of influence on that. Well, like those Jackie Chan movies, Drunken Master and things like that. It's really funny. It's also somewhat kind of parody in the same way that Urusei Yatsura was. Satire. It's making fun of like harem anime. Both Ranma and Akane have different things, like the different suitors for themselves that are trying to chase them. Ranma is funny because he ends up sharing some of Akane's potential suitors that are chasing, because when he's in his girl form, the guys that would be interested in Akane are also interested in him. But most of their shenanigans come down to Genma Saotome, Ranma's dad, has also promised Ranma to way too many people because he is a broke person who lies to people all the time. So while they were on their training, he's like, I will promise my son to you in exchange for a meal because we haven't eaten in 5 days. And then after the meal, he would bolt, and then the person would chase them down 10 years later, be like, okay, I'm here to retrieve your son that you promised to me. And they're like, okay, we'll have a competition. If we beat you in this martial arts competition, he no longer has to marry your daughter. And literally anything possible that could be a competition is made into a martial arts competition as well. So there's like martial arts rhythmic gymnastics, martial arts figure skating, martial arts takeout delivery race, martial arts skiing, and it's hilarious. I love the show. I love the manga. I love the manga more than the show, but it's my favorite manga and my favorite anime. Absolutely love it. But also,
So
Rumiko Takahashi is my favorite creator, period.
Does he still have his same... Does he act like a boy when he's a girl?
Ranma's personality does not change. Which, actually, there's some things in the series that make you question some things. Because he specifically fell in the Spring of Drowned Girl. So that means any time he gets splashed with water, he will take the appearance of a young girl. In this case, I think they mean like a young teenage girl. Definitely developed because Ranma's like the bustiest character in the entire show. But anybody else who like falls into the spring kind of starts to act like the thing when they're like it. But a lot of the characters were already like Genma fell into the spring of the drowned panda. He was already kind of a lazy shit. So like he kind of already acted like a panda. Ryoga fell into the spring of the drowned piglet. But he was already like a hot-headed little thing, so nobody questions either. But there was one of the Jisenkyo, I don't even know what it's called, detention squad. I forget the name of it. But there's a secret organization that punishes people who misuse the transformations, and they have this huge soldier guy who comes after him. But he accidentally fell into the spring of the drowned monk. So every single time he gets splashed with water, he becomes this meek, small, like Buddhist monk that no longer wants to hurt anybody. He's like a pacifist. And it's like, well, he acts like the thing. Like his personality changed. So that does imply that Ranma was already kind of girly to begin with, even when he was a boy, because his personality doesn't change. Because he does some intentionally girly things deceptively to try to like fool people and stuff from time to time. Which kind of makes him like his old man, because his old man is a fucking liar. So it's like, are you just trying to say that he already has some feminine inclinations to deceive people and shit like that? And like it's proper that he fell into the spring of the drowned girl?
Why are all these people falling into springs?
Because Jisenkyo is this legendary training ground, and they decide that they're going to go train up on the bamboo posts that are coming out of the spring. And they're all fucking idiots for training in a cursed training ground.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm going to just pick up this package that's at my door before someone steals it.
But, I love the series. I get mad at the anime for many, many, many reasons. Even though it's my favorite. One of the big reasons is the issue with adaptation. That series went through production hell. Right? It got canceled after the first season. Due to lack of viewership. And part of it was like the time slot. I don't think it was lack of interest, because before that, Urusei Yatsura, the one with Lum, was one of the most popular things on TV. Right? And then they reworked parts of the show, because 2 of the episodes ended up getting clipped out of that season altogether, and ended up putting in season 2, even though chronologically it happens before like the last 2 episodes of the first season. And they put it on a different time slot, and then it got better. But then budget issues and stuff all throughout it, it ended up running for 7 seasons. While being in development hell, like, or production hell the whole time. 7 seasons, 12 OVAs, and 2 movies. And they still didn't finish the story of the manga. And that bothers me. Like, they actually end season 7 with the last, like, scene that's in the manga, sort of. Like, the very last panel. They just tack it on to the end of the episode. To let you know that, like, yeah, this is the end of the show. Like, really? Okay. You've got, like, 13 volumes worth of show left or like series to make, and you're just gonna end it right here.
Interesting.
It went through equally as much hell on the western side as it did the eastern side, because it went through hiatus at one point and came back after like I think a year or two. So the dub actually has a different voice actor for the boy Ranma after I think season 4. It's like either 3 or 4. Like halfway through, there's a different voice actor. The original voice actor was Sarah Strange. So there was a girl voicing him. Which I found was weird. Like, why do you have 2 different girls voicing Ranma? Why not just like try to get the same girl to voice both of them? Right? Whatever. But about halfway through the series, reasons I don't know. I've never looked that deep into it. Sarah Strange drops out of the show, and it comes back with Richard Ian Cox, who voices Ranma for the rest of the time, which is also how he ended up getting the role of Inuyasha later on in the when did the dub happen? It was like 2000. The series started in 97, but I don't think it was like 2000 or 2001 when it came over here.
Yeah. Sarah Strange. Is it this Canadian actress?
Yes, because it was
Or a
the
different
Ocean
Sarah,
Group,
okay.
so everybody's Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Both Sarah Strange and Venus Terzo, who is the voice of the girl-type Ranma, went on to do like Lifetime movies afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if it's in her IMDb. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Also,
this
they
is back in the
didn't
90s.
they didn't censor Ranma. I think they did. There are 2 versions. All they did was they removed the nipples on the Japanese airing of it, right? But other than that, like, if you like tits, you're gonna see plenty of them in Ranma 1/2. Especially because Ranma's like a boy, so when he's a girl, he just doesn't have that same type of like modesty for tits just being shown out. The only thing that bothers him, obviously, when somebody else grabs his tits, right? But like you'll see like Ranma just bouncing around without a shirt on. There's an entire like chapters dedicated to bathhouse battle.
Yeah. What does OVA stand for?
Original video anime or animation, right?
okay.
So that's stuff that just went like straight to VHS. They tried to
I see.
replay it with original video disc, I think is what they changed it to, OVD later on, but it never caught because people just got used to using OVA, so they were still calling like the DVD versions OVAs anyway. We still use things that are direct to video as OVA, but that's not as common as it used to be because a lot of stuff are just going to streaming services. So it's like, if something was put on Netflix, is it technically just only an OVA? Since it never aired on TV? Like, what's the definition there?
That's a good question. Apparently, it's on Amazon Prime Video for free.
Oh, nice.
You don't even have to have a... I guess it's through Freevee or whatever. That's interesting.
But that's what we're watching in the server. And if anybody's never seen Ranma, they can come in. Saturdays, starting at the same time we run this show. I actually bumped it earlier. Even when we're done with that, movie night will probably be earlier because it's on Saturdays now. The reason it was so late was because I was doing it during the work week, but Saturday at 8 Central Time. And because we're watching 12 episodes and you can fit like 3 in an hour, it'll be from 8 to midnight. And come and go as you please. But I do like it. The second season, cool. They kind of treat it like a comic book does. So at the very beginning, there's a little intro explanation that is the same as basically what I just told you, where it's like, meet Akane Tendo of the Tendo Training Hall and Rama Sawatomi of the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts. The 2 are engaged, but as for Ranma's problems, when splashed with cold water, he becomes a she. Like you get this like little intro every single time, so you could just come in randomly, like, okay, I got the premise. I can enjoy whatever the random episode is. But I guess along that lines, because I've been reading comics, Rumiko Takahashi actually has a manga that's going on right now, and I've been catching up on it, called Mao. And it's similar to Inuyasha, where it is a like time displacement dark fantasy. So the premise of Mao is there's this girl named Nanoka, and Nanoka is kind of like this frail girl who would like to be athletic but can't. She lost her parents in a car accident when she was 7 and lives with her grandfather. And she can't really remember anything before that point, or even much of the accident. But one day, when walking through downtown with her friends, she decides to walk through this like almost Shinto-style gateway because they were all going to check out this supposedly haunted haunting district. And when she walks through the gateway, she ends up back in the what's the name of the Tosh? No, I'm trying to remember the name of the era. Is it Toshi? I don't remember. It's basically the era of Japan. It starts with it could be Taishi or something like that. Takes place between 1912 and 1926. So she ends up in like 1923 Japan. And meets this guy named Mao, who is like fighting spirits and demons and stuff there. And soon she finds out that the reason she had that accident when she was a kid was related to the incidents in that era. A weird time dilation shit. And that she was cursed by the same cat demon, cat Oni, that Mao was. And that she's tied up in this whole mess, and there's like this big action dark fantasy mystery that's going on in the story. And it's really fun. I should have started reading it back in like 2019 when it started, just because I really like Rumiko Takahashi's stuff, but I've just been backlogged in so many different things, and I moved that up to the top. I'm 20-something chapters in, so I'm like a 10th way through. I think it just recently hit like chapter 222 maybe. But yeah, I mean, what I like about it is it's an isekai, technically, right? She's going to another world, even if that other world is the past, and there's like spirits and stuff that take place there. But it's just a dark fantasy, and she goes back and forth between the two worlds, and it feels like an 80s, 90s manga reading it, because Rumiko Takahashi hasn't really drastically changed her art style. It's kind of been the same that it's been since Inuyasha. Like it developed, it became sharper by the time she made it to Inuyasha instead of rounder like it was earlier on. But like looking at the art, it looks exactly like the art of Inuyasha, which came out in 1997 and went all the way until like 2008, I think might have been when it ended.
Okay.
Yeah. Like 11 years. And I like that. I like it's nostalgic looking at her art and it not changing and be like, yeah, this printed in black and white on the same type of paper stock. It feels like I just ripped this unknown tome that's existed for decades out of nowhere, even though it's brand new.
Yeah.
Now, if only animation would look like it's that old, then I might be happier.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I was looking up like recent anime releases, and I guess apparently there's one called "Tis Time for Torture Princess" that just came out on Crunchyroll or something, where some princess gets captured and they torture her by tempting her with food.
Is
It's
this
not
supposed to be like a
food-related anime.
prequel to Fat Princess?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fizchosa brings up, I guess, an interesting point of conversation that probably won't last long. Warner Brothers is making a Harley Quinn, quote-unquote, anime they're calling Suicide Squad. I don't think you could say, quote unquote, it is being made by Warner Brothers Japan, in Japan, primarily for Japanese audiences. And I think they're doing that on purpose compared to like some of this Netflix stuff where it's like being made mixed Japanese American studios, like where it's being written American. Because they notice that the stuff being written by Americans just don't hit off the same way that actual anime do. So what I think they're trying to not necessarily do a bait and switch, but they're trying to outsource the writing to a place where they know people will actually like the stuff that comes out of it. So it's like they're making it for American audiences by having Japanese people make it for Japanese audiences first.
Okay, so is it releasing in Japan first?
I think they're doing dual release. Like, the show's going to be finished, and then WB here is going to dub it, and they'll just release it at the same time. Which, that's kind of like how Crunchyroll's doing a lot of the stuff. They are funding a lot of these studios so that they can get the release at the same time, and the studio won't actually release it until Crunchyroll has the dub done. And then they'll do a dual release in both Japanese and English.
So the question is, are they going to ruin the translation?
Oh, probably. I would probably just try to find a fan sub of it and see how it is.
Yeah.
Why is Harley Quinn a higher priority at everything else? DC, even Batman, or like Wonder Woman? Fizzozo asks. Just because Suicide Squad became popular and Harley Quinn is like the hit thing among normies.
Mm-hmm.
The Harley Quinn animated series was kind of shit, and normies still watched it anyway. Though the ratings did slowly plummet over time. Like, they watched it because of Harley Quinn, but the show really wasn't good enough to hold people's attention.
I think so many of their writers now are batshit crazy women, so they
they
identify
outsource
with
it
Harley.
to Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why they can't get translators who just speak both languages, but like otherwise aren't in the industry, maybe?
No.
To just come in and say, translate
is what you're looking for. That speak both languages.
Well,
Here's the actual problem, right? With the
looking
modern
for translators. Just translate it.
Well, though they already do that, though. Here's the thing. Like, so if you know how localization works, most localizers don't speak Japanese. Like, at all, right? They're not the people who translate it, right? There is already a translator. Most of the time, what the localizers get is that there's somebody who works at the Japanese studio, or maybe Viz does a lot of the translation and stuff like that, and get things places. But they'll have somebody at the studio who speaks both Japanese and English, like Japanese first language, English second language, and they will translate it just as is. The problem is, it comes off really stiff, and also sometimes there's things that don't mesh into the English language. So they will take that translated script, that perfectly English translated script, and they will hand it to a localizer who will take that script and be like, how can I make this in a way that English speakers will understand what's being said? Localization used to be fine at some studios. I actually will use Ranma as a good example of when localization is done right. There's a character named Tatawaki Kuno. He's a great character. He's one of the antagonistic characters who wants to marry Akane, but he also falls in love with the pigtailed girl, which is Ranma's other side. He doesn't realize that they're the same person, even though he hates Ranma. He is this very pompous, rich, full of himself person who speaks in this like old Edo dialect of Japanese, like how it would have been back then, because he thinks it makes him sound more sophisticated. Well, if you were to translate any aged dialect from any other language to English, you would still translate it into modern English because that's how translation works, right? So how do we capture the spirit of this character? We're going to give him this old Shakespearean speech because that's kind of like the same spirit of like how you would do that in English. That's good localization, right? That's not what people do now, right? But capturing slang is good localization if you're doing it in the era that the person speaks. People complain about gamer speak in their anime. It's like, well, let's look at the original, right? Like the original Japanese. Is it taking place in the modern day? Yes. were they using nerdy, like, otaku culture speak in the Japanese version? If yes, then yes, you could put in, like, Pog or something in there, because that is contemporary. It turns it into a period piece, just of the modern day. If no, don't put that type of slang in there, because you're not capturing the spirit of what's being said. And that's what localization should be, is capturing the spirit of what's being said. Now they're completely trying to change the spirit, like putting Gamergate references and patriarchy shit in there.
Yeah. I think they've ruined it. They just need to have AI replace them all.
Yeah. The localization is a good thing when it's done right. It's just nobody's doing their fucking job right anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck it, who was it?
Well,
I think it was Jello Apocalypse, right? Was the one that came up. Who he used to do these like quirky lore videos of things. Like, I'm going to tell you the whole lore of Pokemon in this animated video. And he got into like he's in the industry for that stuff. And he was like bragging that, I can't remember the name of the show, but the original show was shit and we made it better. And that was the thing that was going around for like the last week or so. And it's like, that's the attitude that you just don't want in the industry at all. It's like, no, people watch this stuff because they want the show that came out of Japanese. They don't want your weird changed version of it. You didn't make it better. You made it worse. But yeah. Unless you have something to say on that, it's the end of the show.
No, I really got to go to the bathroom, so.
Okay, well, thank you all for watching.
I'm just like,
Super Serial
let's go.
Showtime. I've enjoyed the conversation today.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we'll talk a little more about Free Run or something next time. Depends whatever you end up watching. And we will catch you guys on Thursday for Game Central Junction. Take it easy.
See ya.